So do yourself a favor, check out the Carlisle Cult Cinema Club, and don't forget not just to rate it, but also to subscribe on YouTube or Facebook.
Hi, I'm Ian Ogilvy, and you're watching the Carlisle Cult Cinema Club.
Horror has many faces, but pure evil wears only one. And this is your final chance to see it. Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday. Rated R. Starts Friday, August 13th at a theater.
Right then. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Carlisle Cult Cinema Club presents Adam Marcus in conversation with 71 IMDb credits to his name, 22 as himself, talking head in docs, etc., 10 as a writer, 8 as a director, 8 as an actor, 8 as a producer, 8 miscellaneous, 5 as an editor, 2 cinematographer. There's probably more uncredited. Welcome to the Carlisle Cult Cinema Club presents the Friday the 13th franchise directing legend, Adam Marcus. Thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you for having me, brother.
No, it's an honour. I'm a massive Friday the 13th franchise fan.
Love it.
Have been from the very beginnings when I first saw the first one on VHS as a very young child. Mm-hmm. Too young, some will say.
I'm sure.
And, I was about 8 when I seen it.
Yeah.
And caught up with the rest very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 51 now, so that kind of gives you an age.
We're pretty close. We're pretty close in age, you know.
Well, yeah, not far. I know, not far at all. So, where did it all start for a young Adam Marcus? What gave you the bite to be a filmmaker?
Well, the thing, a lot of my family was already sort of in the industry, not as filmmakers, but as actors and Broadway performers, singers, that sort of thing. My Uncle Joe wrote, directed, and produced the movie Don't Go in the House. So he had made kind of a horror classic.
Yeah.
So that was my Uncle Joe. My Uncle Ned, if you're a fan of The Burning, my Uncle Ned played Eddie in The Burning. He was one of the leads of the movie.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
And he's also in one of your films as well.
Oh, he sure is. He's in Let It Snow.
Yes.
Ned is also, if you watch any few episodes of Law and Order SVU, you will see Ned. He's in like every third episode. So much so he passed away a couple years ago, and they dedicated the season to him. Because he was so important to the show. So yeah, he was one of Dick Wolf's favorite actors. But he's been in Clint Eastwood movies, Woody Allen movies.
Wasn't he in one of the Death Wish films? Was he in one of the Death Wish films? Was he in one of the Death Wish films?
No, he was he was in the original Exterminator.
That'll be it, Exterminator.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep, he's he's the reason he becomes the Exterminator. He kills his best friend.
That's right. I watch it often. That and the Death Wish films. That's why.
Yeah.
Get them mixed up quite easily.
Well, they're very similar movies. Absolutely.
They are. So you can see the kind of films I like watching.
Absolutely, dude.
So sorry, back to.
Yeah, no, that's sort of like, so it was a little bit of the family business. And so I was born in Manhattan in New York City. My father lived in New York. My mother lived in a little town called Westport, Connecticut. And the thing about Westport is it's this artist enclave. So, I live down the street from Paul Newman. I used to sing at Martha Stewart's house at Christmas time. I did play readings with Keira DeLay from 2001: A Space Odyssey and Frank Gorshin, the Riddler from Batman. By the time I was 11, 12 years old, I was doing play readings with them. So I started as an actor. And then when I was 9 years old, as many people my age, filmmakers my age, I'm sitting in a movie theater on May 25th on a Saturday, the day after the original Star Wars opened. And my dad had seen it in New York, rushed to Connecticut to take me to it in the first screening in the morning. So we're sitting there looking up at this screen, and the moment that first blast of music happened, and the Tantive 4 flies overhead, followed by the Star Destroyer, my eyes were as wide as saucers. My mouth dropped, and I said quietly, I want to do that. Now, my father, seeing his 9-year-old son saying this, said, "Oh, you want to be an astronaut?" I was like, "No, I want to make that." And I can tell you in all truthfulness, I have never spent one day since that 9-year-old moment not pursuing this career. It has been truly every day of my life since then. So that was really the kind of the spark for it. I was very lucky in that, I had parents who encouraged my love of the arts and wanting to be involved in that. By the time, look, I also had Sean Cunningham. So his son Noel and I were best friends since when we were in 3rd grade. And I was on the set of the original Friday the 13th before I was 11 years old. So
I've got that down as a question.
Yeah. No, dude, I mean, it was something else, man. And by the time I was 13, I was apprentice editing for Susan Cunningham, Sean's wife, Noel's mother, on the movie Spring Break for Columbia Pictures. And then at 15, I opened the first of my 2 theatrical companies that I ran through my teen years, and those are the companies that put me through film school at NYU. So, yeah, I didn't have any choice, man. It was like, here's the thing: it's almost like if you're born into a family of doctors, you have a good chance of being a doctor.
Yeah,
my parents would have preferred I become a doctor. They would have liked that a lot more. But they were trepidatious about it only because being in this industry, you do know how tough this industry is, and I think they didn't want me to have that. But they're pretty excited about what happened, so it went in the right direction, that's for sure. But yeah, I don't think I really had a choice.
Well, and I don't think it turned out bad. So let's start with your directorial debut.
Yep.
Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday. After a short break, Jason's back. Paramount had sold him on to New Line.
Yes.
And you were a young 23-year-old.
Well, I was 23 when I directed it. I was 21 when I got hired to write the script.
Right.
And the thing is that, and again, in the uncredited part of IMDb, I had produced a movie for Sean already when I was 21. I had set up a movie at Disney for him, called My Boyfriend's Back. It was originally called Johnny Zombie, and that was actually the movie I was going to direct. That was going to be my first film. So I set that up at 21. I wanted it to go to New Line. New Line wanted the movie as well. There was a little bit of a bidding war between them. And I wanted New Line because I knew New Line would not only let me direct, but they would also support me in the kind of movie I wanted to make, because it was a hard R comedy horror musical. And it was insane. It was like this freaking nuts movie. And so Sean, however, really loves money more than anything else. And Disney had a lot of money. And so Sean never made a decision that wasn't about money, ever.
Right.
So we ended up at Disney. They gave him 3 times the money that New Line would have given him. And there was no way that Disney was going to say yes to a 21-year-old director directing their $8.5 million movie. It wasn't going to happen.
No.
So it didn't happen. And I turned to Sean and I said, "Hey, bro, I just made you a ton of money. You owe me a movie. Give me a movie." And he said, "Okay, yeah. If you can get that fucking hockey mask out of the movie, I'll let you write and direct the next Friday the 13th. And I was like, yeah, like that was like the now, by the way, all I heard was direct next Friday the 13th. That's all I really heard.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited to run down the hall to like call my mom and tell her like, this is how great this is and everything. And then I suddenly went, wait. I got to get the what out of the what? No mask? What are we doing? And thus began the long process to Jason Goes to Hell. So Yes, I was 21 when that conversation happened. I wrote the movie over my years from 22 to into 23. Dean Lorey then came on to work the script with me, that's how it started. Yeah.
Because hasn't Sean said it was you who said get the hockey mask out?
Yeah, Sean has. Here's the deal. Okay, so I'm going to pose this to you as a question, and you tell me your response. So, okay, now let's remember, I'm 21. Sean is 51 or 52 at that point. And Sean is Sean S. Cunningham, the man who created the Friday the 13th franchise, who created the House franchise. Okay,
yeah,
he's that guy. Okay. So, one of two things happened. Either I came into the office and Sean said, I will let you write and direct this movie if you get that fucking hockey mask out of the movie. And I said, sure, boss, whatever you want. And acted like a 21-year-old getting a job. Or I walked into Sean's office. He said, hey, you want to write and direct the next Friday the 13th? I said, yeah. But you know what? We're getting rid of that fucking hockey mask because that's fucking stupid. And Sean went, anything you say, Adam. Of course. What a great idea. I never thought of that. So, in one case, I am the most powerful 21-year-old to ever take breath. And Sean Cunningham is a eunuch, is a ballless wonder. Or I was a good soldier who was told what to do and I did it. And that makes Sean a fucking liar. So, you can take either road. I will accept either scenario. Either I was Thor of movie making, or I was a good soldier. In his case, either he's a ballless eunuch or a liar. Up to him. He can take either one.
I think we're sitting here and the passion you're going on. I think I know who I believe. Yeah. But yeah, I think I've either seen it written down or.
Oh, he said it many times. He said it a bunch.
Yeah.
But by the way, let me give you just a little background because I literally grew up in the Cunningham household.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So Sean Cunningham made the movie Friday the 13th because Halloween was a hit.
Mm.
Sean wanted to make kids movies and this is a true thing, and country western musicals. That's what he wanted to make. Okay. He made two kids movies in the mid-70s, one called Here Come the Tigers and one called Manny's Orphans, or AKA Kick. They are both rip-offs of the Bad News Bears. And when I say rip-offs of the Bad News Bears, I mean scene-for-scene rip-offs of the Bad News Bears.
Right.
Okay? Because that's what Sean does. Sean sees somebody do something, he goes, ooh, that made money, I'll do that. So he just does it. He just redoes what was there before. Okay. So when he made Friday the 13th, he made it because his two Bad News Bears ripoffs were disasters. They made no money. They were disasters. And he was not going to have a career soon. So he went, okay, the only thing I've made that has been a huge success is when I produced Last House on the Left for Wes Craven, right? But Sean wanted to direct. He wanted to be a director. He wanted the same kind of fame that Wes was getting, okay? So, and none of that's wrong. Good for him. So, Victor Miller has a script, Sean has a title, and it's a great title, and his whole thinking was, okay, Halloween comes once a year, so this movie works once a year. Friday the 13th can come any point of the year. So, you can have this year right now, we have 3 Friday the 13th in this year, right? So, Friday the 13th is something that you can attach to any month. There's no reason to only have it come out at one point in the year. You don't have to be a Halloween movie. You don't have to be a Christmas movie. You can come out at any point. In the same way, because, look, John Carpenter never had an idea that Sean didn't want to steal. The thing about Halloween, if you'll remember, John Carpenter did not want to make movies about Michael Myers at all. He made a movie about Michael Myers. When they came back for him to do part 2, he said, great, and they said, we want a Michael Myers movie. And he went, wait, the guy's dead. Like, we killed Michael Myers. Like, what are you talking? We're not doing another one of those. I want to tell stories of Halloween. which is why part 3 is the actual only sequel to the original movie. Because that's what Carpenter wanted to do. Whether you love it or hate it, doesn't matter. That's what Carpenter wanted to do, and Carpenter wrote and produced Halloween 3 and had one of his best friends direct it. Now, Sean Cunningham, when the studio came to him, because Friday the 13th was a giant success, they said, great, we want a sequel. And he said, fantastic, let's make a sequel. I want to tell stories of the unluckiest day of the year. That's what he wanted to make. And they said, yeah, we want to make it about Jason. And Sean said, who? They said the kid in the lake. He's like, wait, the kid who died in the 50s? The thing at the end of the movie, I was just ripping off Brian De Palma from Carrie. So now you want me to make a movie about that kid in the lake? The kid's dead. It was in her mind that he jumped out of the water. That was just a thing that was just for a scare. They said, no, we want that guy. And Sean said, that is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. I'm not directing that movie. And he didn't. And he gave it to his protege, Steve Miner, direct, because Sean, again, money is everything, and he wants to stay as involved as he can so he can make as much money. Remember, Sean Cunningham made part 1, and then he made part 9. Nothing in between. Literally nothing in between. He got paid for all of those, but he only made those 2, those 10 poles. Now, when they put a sack on Jason's head in part 2, Sean's response to the sack was, what is this, Elephant Man the movie? Like, what are we doing? We're making an Elephant Man killer film? Okay, that's his response to the sack. When they show him the mask for part 3, when they show him the hockey mask, his response is, pfft, and I thought the sack was stupid. When I start working with Sean in my early 20s, the only kinds of movies Sean could get produced, the only money he could find was for Friday the 13th movies. It's why he shepherded the rights from Paramount, who had it with the franchise, because of part 8. They were like, we're out, we're done. And by the way, Paramount never liked those movies. They didn't want those movies. They were money makers, but they were embarrassed. Paramount was embarrassed by those movies. So Sean took the rights for Jason Voorhees, by the way, not for Friday the 13th, mind you, for Jason Voorhees, and things from the first movie, which is the only stuff I could use, and moved it into New Line, because Sean needed to make some money. So we go to New Line. Now, think about it this way. The only movies that Sean can make now are Friday the 13th movies. That's the only thing he can get financed. And I was there at the company for years. We were having a real problem getting anything financed. The fact that my boyfriend's back happened was remarkable, okay? If you hate the hockey mask, if you hate that mask, and you hate that they made Friday the 13th movies about Jason Voorhees, you love the money, but you hate the movies. And you hate that there's a fucking hockey mask in the movie. Wouldn't you want to get the hockey mask out of the movie if you had to go make them again?
Yeah.
So I had no grudge about the mask. I love Friday the 13th. I love this franchise. And I was so excited to direct this movie. And so for me to be the one to say, get the hockey mask out, it's insane. So everybody, by the way, when I was given the task, did I turn around and say, okay, I get it. Like there's 6 movies with a hockey mask already. Okay. I can figure it out. Part 2 didn't have a hockey mask. Part 1, Jason isn't even the killer. And let's be honest, part 5, he's not the killer either. So I went, all right. I said, this franchise has gone through so many iterations, so many different changes. Now, having a brain in my head, I also said, we better show that mask a bunch. We've got to get the mask in the movie. Okay? So the opening of the movie is 8 minutes of the mask. The end of the movie is about 12 minutes of the mask. And by the way, I'm the one who brought him back from the dead at the end of the movie, because it was like, I got to get that mask back in the movie. And if you notice, any time that someone is possessed with Jason's evil, whenever they pass any reflective surface, there's the mask. Yeah. Sean didn't come up with that. That's mine. I came up with that idea. Nobody else came up with that. So the guy wanted to get rid of the mask. Why did I keep showing the mask so much? Why? Well, because
in fact,
wanted the mask.
You've probably seen the mask more in Jason Goes to Hell than in some of the other movies.
You absolutely do, by the way. There are several people who've done the timing on it and how long you see the mask on screen in my movie, and it trumps most of the other films. He has a ton of the mask in the movie.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. More just thinking about it there, and I've never thought about that up until we're having this conversation.
Absolutely. Most people don't.
Yeah, and yeah, the mask is in the movie. That whole sequence at the start, which is that beginning, is superb.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? And I completely get why the FBI would be hunting, this serial killer who's killed, over 100 people.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Many times people ask me, if you did another Friday 13th, what would you do? Like, I get that question a lot. And my response to it is, the movie I would make at this point about Jason Voorhees, because if you've ever been in the woods of New Jersey, there are miles and miles and miles of just endless forest, right? It's just everywhere. And the movie I would make is a tactical team that hires Creighton Duke, who, by the way, didn't die in my movie, so we can get into that whenever you want to. Creighton Duke and Tommy Jarvis. And the two of them go in with a bunch of military guys, like super high-tech guys, into the woods of Crystal Lake to hunt Jason. And you do it Predator style.
That's a film I'd watch all day long.
There you go. So, by the way, look, when we started writing the movie, we were literally just when I was coming up with the concept of the film, I went, guys, this guy has killed over 130 people in a 1-mile radius. That's not a local police problem anymore. That's a federal problem. That's a serial killer, the likes of which the country has never seen. They're not going to bring in the feds. They're not going to bring in SWAT teams to get that. Of course they're going to. So every time, think about it. Every time somebody sends their kid to that camp, you go, who the hell sends their kid to that camp? It's like in Law and Order, right? If you're watching Law and Order SVU, which is one of my favorite shows of all time. When you watch that show and they go, oh man, the woman's been assaulted at her college, and they're like, where? Well, they're down at Hudson U. Do you know how many people have been sexually assaulted at Hudson University, which is a made-up university because they had to? And I go, yeah. Who sends their kids to Hudson University? It's the sexual assault capital of the planet. Why would you send your child there? So it is the same thought process. Why would you send your kid to Crystal Lake? Why? Forget about the camp. Why would you send them near that town? It's a lot of murders. So yes, the opening for me was, look, it was a way for me to play all of my favorite beats and all my favorite stuff from Friday the 13th movies. Even the stuff that's kind of silly, right? Where we go, why is that woman taking a shower in the dark? Why is she running around naked? Why is she...
Yeah.
All of the things that we go, okay, why? And I played every single one of those tropes in 7 minutes, right? Which is so much fun thinking that they're baiting Jason with all of the cliches. So suddenly the cliches aren't wrong anymore. It's the things that bring him out. It's the things that inspire Jason to murder.
Yeah.
Great. So now the bait is on the hook, and I get this incredible woman. I get Julie Michaels to play this thing, who is such a badass. And I do what is really one of the earliest sort of meta moments in horror movies, where I'm poking at the franchise while embracing the franchise entirely.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna blow them up, and I'm gonna leave an audience before the credits. I'm gonna have an audience sitting in the theater going, because you don't know what's coming now. Now anything could fucking happen, right? Like what's the next moment? And honestly, think about it this way. Most of the Friday 13th, not all, but most of the Friday 13th are a bunch of teens go to Crystal Lake. You know they're going to get killed. They all want to have sex because they're teenagers. They all want to do drugs because they're teenagers. They want to do all the things, right? And we're just sitting in our chair going, this is all going to go bad. I know. The other thing is that, look, my biggest problem with most franchises in general is that, and this is a bit of a studio problem too. The first and sometimes the second movie of franchise, right, are flat out terrifying, right?
Yeah.
You go to the first Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, no one was like, that Freddy is so funny. No one said that. Okay. You watched Freddy and you were like, this guy, what the fuck? This guy is horrifying, right?
Yeah.
That's what made it a hit. Friday the 13th Part 2, which is an amazing, I love that film. I think it's a much better movie than the first one. Friday the 13th Part 2 is actually scary. It's really scary. And Jason is the monster. The reason why Ginny is everybody's favorite final girl, one, Amy Steele is the best. I mean, she's just amazing, right? But the other part of it is, we didn't like Jason. We liked Ginny. We liked the girl that represented us as an audience. Jason was the shark. Nobody goes to Jaws and roots for the shark. Nobody. Maybe other sharks. But nobody in the audience, right?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. By the third movie, you don't care about the heroes. You don't even know the heroes. The person you know is the killer. So now you're on the side of the killer. And it's why every time Jason kills someone, we just want a bigger, better, crazier kill so we can and then all go, woohoo! Like we're on a roller coaster ride, right?
Yeah.
By the way, that's not a horror movie anymore. That's not a horror movie. It's a different animal. It's a carnival ride. Great. By the way, nothing wrong with that. That's awesome. But when people call it horror, I go, you don't know what a horror movie is, man. Where's the horror in your horror movie? What is scary about that? Nothing. That's not scary. Yeah, you can have a couple of jump scares. Everybody knows how cheap that is. But you're not frightened of anything. You're waiting for him to murder that teenager. And by the way, consistently, they make the characters dumber and dumber and sillier so that you're not upset when they die. You're enjoying it. You want them to die. Like, how many bitches are in the Friday the 13th franchise? Every one of these movies has some girl that you're like, I can't wait until Jason kills her because she's so horrible, right? This is a terrible person. I don't want her to breathe the same air as me. Oh, Jason got her. Woo!
Arsehole boyfriend.
Yep. Yes. Yes. It's in every one of these things. So, by the way, it's why, personally, my favorite of the entire franchise is Jason Lives. Because Tommy McLaughlin, first, is a fantastic filmmaker. And second, he made a movie about people that you liked. Like, you love Tommy Jarvis in that movie. Like, you're really rooting for him. And so you got a final boy in that movie. By the way, that movie has a final boy and my movie has a final boy. And I've always thought of our films as kind of sister movies. But there's a hero to root for. If you have a hero to root for, then you will boo and hiss the villain. You don't want the villain to win. You want the hero to win. And that's not the case in 80% of the Friday the 13th franchise. It's just not. You want Jason to win.
You want to see... For me, the Friday the 13th franchise is the kills.
That's what it is. It's what it is.
It's the kills. And we all know the first one was bare blood.
Absolutely. But by the way, think about this. So when I go to make Jason Goes to Hell, right? My mind is going, okay, what are the movies that scare the shit out of me? What are the movies that make me like nervous, right? And there's people who love to say that I ripped off The Hidden. I'd never seen The Hidden when I made that movie, when I made Jason Goes to Hell. And I watched it afterwards and I went, oh my God, it's so similar. Fuck. But by the way, mind you, the studio I made Jason Goes to Hell for is the same studio that made The Hidden.
The Hidden.
Not one person at New Line ever said to me, you know, this is kind of like The Hidden. Not once. When they read the script, they didn't say it. Bob Shea produced The Hidden for Jack Shoulder. He produced it. He never said to me, Adam, little hidden-ish. Not once.
I've had Jack Shoulder on the show. He's a lovely bloke.
He's amazing. He's amazing. He's amazing. Great guy. And by the way, when he saw Jason Goes to Hell, because he did see it, and it was only a few years ago he saw it, his response to it was, nah, all right, I'm going to call it an homage. I was like, good for you, Jack. Way to go. Like, that's that. There you go. Yeah. That's the way to do it. But by the way, I wasn't aping The Hidden. I was aping The Thing. I was aping one of my favorite movies of all time. And the idea of not knowing where the villain is, not knowing that you could trust your best friend because your best friend might be the fucking killer. that there's nowhere to hide. And for me, that brought some scariness back to the franchise. That brought something back that went, wait a minute, if you don't know who's coming at you, that's scary. Yeah, we all love Jason, but this isn't quite Jason. This is something else. This is Jason plus something. So suddenly I was kind of pulling the rug out from people, and I understand there are people who hate that I did that, and I get it. I don't begrudge them that. But the franchise needed something new. And also, look, the horror genre is, the horror fan base, which are the best fans in the world. They really are, because they're the most loyal. They're, like, amazing. The horror fan base is always asking for something different. They always want it different. They're like, oh, don't do the same thing again. Show us something different. And then you go and make a movie where it's different, and they go, why didn't you give us the same thing again? This is too different. So you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. And for my money...
Like Star Trek fans, Star Wars fans.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Wait, here's the one thing. Star Wars fans, and by the way, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Okay, so I'm not speaking out of school. Star Wars fans are dicks.
Yeah, I completely.
We're the worst.
Yeah,
we are the worst.
I'm a fan. I know the score. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It's like, guys, I think they actually like bitching more than getting a good movie.
Yes.
I'm waiting for people to bitch about Mandalorian and Grogu, and I think it's going to be amazing. Like, I'm so excited for that movie.
Same. I can't wait to see it.
Right?
Thoroughly enjoy the series.
Oh, the best. The freaking best. By the way, people love that series, and then you start to hear rumblings. I don't like this. It's like, guys, cut it out. Like, just cut it. Enjoy the thing. Just enjoy it. Star Trek fans are less that. Because look, I think it's in the title, War versus Trek. I think people who like war are a little more, the people who like exploration are a little more open to things. But the thing about Star Trek, so my wife is a Trekker, okay? In like a big deal. Like, dude, she's got every costume for all the women in Star Trek. Like, she's got them upstairs. That's my wife. And one of my closest friends, who was one of the leads of Secret Santa, Curtis Fortier, is a redonkulous Star Trek fan, right? When the J.J. Abrams movies came out, my friend Curtis was like, shit, that movie's shit. And I'm like, okay, so what's the problem with the movie? Is it's too well written and the acting is too good? Is that the problem? You don't like that it's acted well? I can understand. Because you're used to one kind of acting, and then this is a different kind of acting. This is good acting. I get it. Really fucked up your franchise. Come on. Like, but by the way, that's kind of the only, you don't hear as much bitching about Star Trek. You really don't, because they're just cooler fans. They're just better fans. Star Wars fans suck. Horror fans, for the most part, are so loyal, like crazy loyal, right? I mean, there are several series that I will not mention, that I think lost the plot so long ago, and I don't understand the movies anymore. Like, I'm like, what am I watching? And I go to every one of them. I see them all opening weekend, and I just sit there going, okay, what is this? What is this movie I'm watching, right? Or, wow, none of this is scary. Nobody talks like a real person. Or, how many times is that kid going to get shot and get up and keep fighting? Like, you've been shot through the back 3 times, and you're still okay. And at the end of the movie, you walk over and you're like, hey, guys. I'm like, that kid's got a spinal injury. And the audience for those movies loves those movies. Like, they love them, adore them, are so behind them. And by the way, good for them. That's awesome. That's awesome. But it's why I don't denigrate other horror films. I don't come out against horror movies ever. Like, and I don't really come out against movies. I love movies.
Well, the only genre that has kept studios afloat time and time again. The only genre that's been able to do it.
We're it. By the way, when I made Jason Goes to Hell, we were every studio's dirty little secret because we paid all the bills and they hated us for it. They hated it. And we were treated like we were pornographers. We were treated really badly. Like we were like, the kids that you don't want to, they're the gross kids. Now every A-list director is like, hey, let me get my horror movie going because I want to make that cash. And it's why a lot of the bigger horror movies, the studio horror stuff, is kind of soulless because it's made by people who don't love horror. They love money. And again, remember, I mentioned a certain producer who loved money more than he loved horror. I came into Jason Goes to Hell loving the franchise, loving horror movies, and wanting to tell a story that would scare people. By the way, it's why there are things, everybody always goes like, okay, I mean, what the hell is with that whole, like, shaving the naked dude, in the Voorhees house? Like, what is that, man? What is, tying a guy to a table and shaving him? And my response is, did it upset you when you saw the movie? Were you, like, freaked out a little bit? Did it, like, get under your skin a little bit? Did it make you go, oh, what the fuck is going on? That's why it's there. Yeah. That's why it's there. That's why a ton of that movie is the way it is. Because I don't want the audience to feel safe. In a horror movie, an audience should never feel safe. You have to feel like this person could show me anything and it's going to screw me up. That's what you want in a horror movie. This sort of sanitized PG-13 horror, cut it out.
Yeah.
Cut it out. It's not horror. It's not horror.
No. I'm sick of that.
Right. And look, Jaws is one of the greatest horror movies ever made. And by the way, anybody who tries to say it's not a horror movie, shut up.
Yeah.
Sharks don't fly onto boats and eat the crew. It doesn't happen. So it was ridiculous. Jaws is a horror movie. It's one of the greatest horror movies ever made. And it was PG. It's rated PG. Now, by the way, it shouldn't have been. I mean, that is not a movie for little kids. But it was. So it's not like it can't... Look, Poltergeist, which, of course, inspired, the PG-13 rating, is terrifying. The original Poltergeist, It's a masterpiece. It is fucking terrifying. It's PG. So it's not that you can't do it. It's that the reasons that most people make a PG horror film or a PG-13 horror film at this point is because they want more money. Yes. Not because they're telling a story that can be told in a way that anyone can see it. That's different.
Yeah. Look at the Evil Dead franchise that have kept the R rating right through the franchise, and everyone has been a massive success.
Yep. You're right. And it's, look, I think, and by the way, it's why the MPAA is so freaking ridiculous. It's why this sort of these governing boards that tell us what we can and cannot see, fuck all that.
We had the video nasties era.
I know. Oh, I know. Oh, I know. And
72 tapes banned outright.
What I will say one thing about the video nasties, which is it never should have happened. But here's what was kind of cool about the video nasties. It made those movies legendary. Those movies suddenly got a status, and some of those movies are bad movies.
The shit. I own them all. I own them all on VHS.
Right.
Original rental tapes.
Because you wanted it. Because it was it was like this grail, right? I'm going to get this thing. Some of those movies are just bad. Right?
The shit. Absolute garbage.
Right.
Cannibal Terror. Frozen Scream.
But you wanted them. Like there was a mystique about them now, right? And yeah, I agree with you. I think that look, I don't think little kids should be admitted to horror movies. I agree with that. And by the way, not all horror movies, but most. If it's an R-rated movie, I don't think kids should be walking into that movie. I think, and by the way, when I say kids, I mean kids under 12.
Yes.
When you hit 12, come on, stop it. Like, they know what the world is. They'll be fine. Even Jason Goes to Hell, which is insane. Like, that movie is insane. I would have no problem with a 12-year-old seeing that movie. Cool, see it. Great. Oh, no, there's boobies.
My 10-year-old daughter is a Jason Voorhees fan because she's seen my merchandise over the years.
Yeah.
I've shown a bit to the films.
Yeah.
And I'd happily let her sit and watch a full movie.
Yes. Because again,
6, she loves the beginning of 6.
It's so good. 6 is so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's just great. It's just a great movie. I will say, look, I think that there's I feel like there's just a crazy hypocrisy, especially in the United States, because the thing that they get more upset about, like in England, you guys, or in the UK in general, you're more concerned with the blood and the murders and the killing. In the US, it's just about the nudity and the sex. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. You take the nudity out, they're thrilled. Then they're like, great, you go, you show your movie, have fun. That is insane to me. Like, that is the craziness. Like, the human body is the thing that we should be upset about? Why? We all have one. That's ridiculous. I can go see nudity anytime I want. I can walk in my bathroom, take off my clothes, look in the mirror, there, nudity, done. I don't understand where and by the way, I also love the idea of we have no problem watching somebody get a knife through them or an axe in the head. We do have a problem with people making love to each other. Wait, what? So that's some like religious hypocrisy bullshit. And oh, by the way, Jason Goes to Hell is the only Friday 13th that nobody gets murdered because they have sex or because they do drugs. A couple gets killed because they have unsafe sex. And that's the only way I would do that scene.
And I can understand what you're saying. Mm-hmm. Completely.
Yeah. I hate the hypocrisy of it. It's like, man, listen, we're all grown adults. Let us watch what we want to watch. By the way, when you're saying 17 and above, when you're saying rated R, which rated R is restricted, right, in this country, then why are you cutting 3 minutes out of Jason Goes to Hell for an R-rated audience? They're adults. They didn't stumble they didn't stumble into the theater going, God, I don't know what this is about. They walked in wanting all of that. So why are you taking it away from them? That's insane. So, yeah. And by the way, now with streaming and the internet and everything else, like, all bets are off. Like, I'm sorry, Terrifier exists. You can show anything you want to show now. Like,
yeah, I must admit, I'm not a Terrifier fan. And I think
nor am I, my friend. I'm so happy to hear you say that.
Yeah, I think I've seen the Mask Killers done so many times. I just feel is a derivative of other horror icons.
Sure, but it's also, I don't know what the plot is. What's the plot?
Yeah.
Tell me the plot of those movies. There is no plot. There's a clown, and he murders people, especially women, and cuts them into hamburger meat, screaming hamburger meat.
Yeah.
Now, by the way, however, I will say this. God bless the Terrifier movies. Because they are some of the only movies that are keeping that part of horror alive. And the fact that people are running out to see those movies means there is a big hole in what the audience wants and what they're not being given. Yeah. Personally, I love... Look, let's take Eli Roth's Hostel. Not the second one, the first one.
Yes.
The first Hostel, right? Here's a guy who is telling a story about three young men being butchered, right? And the story is super rich, scummy, dudes, who the way they get off is in hurting people, okay?
Yeah.
By the way, with Epstein and all the rest of it, it's like, well, this is a true story. This is actually what's happening in our world, right?
Yeah.
So Eli Roth is telling that story, but he's doing it with dudes, not with girls, with guys, right? And so much so that at the beginning of the movie, he shows you those guys in Amsterdam, and they're looking at women in the windows, and the women are being treated like meat by these guys. What's amazing and ironic is that they're actually the meat, because they're going to be turned into meat during this movie. Now, that's an ultra-violent movie that has a point. Whether you love it or hate it, that's fine. But he's telling you something that actually... Look, for me, the best horror movies are the ones that are not about murder and not about the killings themselves, but that are about something else that's being illustrated through the mechanism of horror. Night of the Living Dead isn't just a classic because it created the zombie subgenre. It's a classic because it's about the Vietnam War and about the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
And those things got into George Romero, who was one of the best guys to ever breathe. And this guy went, I want to talk about that. But if you told a movie that was about those things, people turned off. They're like, I don't want to watch that. But you show it to them in zombie form, that's good eating. And look, Dawn of the Dead is about American consumerism gone amok. By the way, we're still living in it. It's still happening. So,
And also the greatest American Civil War movie ever made.
oh, absolutely. Abso-fucking-lutely. Yeah. Yeah. Dude, look, the best filmmakers are the ones who are trying to tell a story that's behind the story.
Yeah.
And that's what I wish Terrifier had. I wish it had a plot. I don't know what the plot is. I wish someone would tell me. I wish Damien would tell me. But I still honor the fact that there's an audience that wants those movies, that's willing to go to a movie theater and pay to see those movies. I think that's great. You know, whether they're for me or not, they're not for me. They're not built for me. They're built for somebody else. But it's keeping our genre alive. So,
yeah.
Yay. You know, look, by the way, and I know there's a divide on Osgood Perkins, which I totally understand. But I watch a guy like Osgood Perkins and I go, you know what? This guy, he might not hit it out of the park every time. Who cares? He's making movies that are so fucking weird and so interesting and so off the beaten path. That's good for our genre. That's good for us. We need filmmakers like that who are telling... Look, Hereditary, right? Is by the way, when they that poor movie, when they came out with that film and every advertisement was the scariest movie since The Exorcist. Okay, we got to stop that. Like, as an industry, we got to stop doing that. Like, no, it's not. No, it's not. Stop it. And by the way, nothing is as good or scary as The Exorcist. So cut it out.
No,
just cut it out. And by the way, stop making sequels to The Exorcist. Like, stop. I love Mike Flanagan. Like, I love him. I wish that I could just stand between him and the camera and go, no, not this. Don't make this. Stop this. Stop the madness. Because no one survives it. No one. No one survives making a sequel to The Exorcist. They all fall. Great filmmakers have tried. They all lose. All of them. And so when you say Hereditary is the scariest movie since The Exorcist, I go, okay, can you just let it be a movie? Just let it be a cool heart. Just say it's a fucking scary movie. That's cool. Just say, oh my God, I love this movie. Great. What I love about Hereditary, even though I think the third act is a problem, okay? The rest of the film, dude, when Act 1 ended, when, happened, I made a sound in the movie theater, opening night, first show. I made a sound came out of my body that I've never made before or since. And it came from some deep place in me I didn't know existed. I screamed, but like, I mean, it was like this thing. My wife turns to me, she's like, what the hell? And 5 minutes later, she turned back to me and I was still like this. And she said, are you okay? And I said to her, I don't know if I am. I don't know if I can sit for the rest of the movie. I don't know. I was so shaken. I was so upset. For me personally, I'm gonna give you my ending of Hereditary, what I think would have been a better ending. Because my problem with the ending is suddenly this incredibly intelligent, beautiful movie about grief, because it's really about grief. This like unique thing suddenly kind of turns into Rosemary's Baby meets Exorcist 3. And I go, well, Rosemary's Baby is better at this. Exorcist 3 is better at this. What are you doing? Naked old people. Scary. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Naked old people aren't scary. It's not scary. It's silly. It's a little yucky, but it's not scary. I'm so tired of that trope of like naked old people are terrifying. No, they're not. Stop. Everybody stop it. It's gross. You're just trying to freak us out with grandma naked. That's what you're trying to do. Imagine if the end of that movie, after everything that happens, you let the whole thing play out exactly as it is. But then you cut to the living room of the house, and there's Gabriel Byrne's body smoldering, and her son's body in pieces, and she's standing there with an axe, just looking at them, and she's still there. Nothing supernatural has happened. She just murdered her whole family. They're all dead.
Yeah. That
movie would stay with me for the rest of my life. That movie, I'd be like, oh God, because the movie's about grief. If all that crazy shit was in her head because she's been driven to madness, great. That's actual horror. When you tell me a story that could happen in my home, oh fuck. By the way, I love supernatural horror. Don't get me wrong. I mean, shit. I mean, Jason Goes to Hell, for God's sakes. But I really love when I go, man, maybe I can't trust my mom. That's nightmare fuel. A bunch of old naked people are going to come and make me worship the devil. I'm not scared of that. I'm just not scared of it. It's silly. And so I feel, but that's all of that said. I love that movie exists. I love it. And that movie was a shot in the arm to horror. Suddenly people went, ooh, maybe we should give these movies awards. By the way, Toni Collette should have won Best Actress of the Academy Award that year. No two ways around. It's the best performance of the year. Hands down. She's amazing in that film. But I think anything that changes up the horror genre, especially getting away from IP, you know, everybody wants another sequel. How about we stop with the sequels and we demand of our filmmakers, why don't you make original horror movies? Because, by the way, original horror movies make money too.
Yeah.
Right?
Look at Weapons.
Look at Weapons. Look at Sinners.
Yeah.
You've got Sinners and Weapons
Sinners.
in the same year. Both of them won Academy Awards. Right? And both of them made a ton of money.
Yeah.
But trust me, Scream 8 is coming. Because they go, well, that's just a printing press. We can just keep making money. I don't think that's good for the genre. I think what's good for the genre is original ideas. Original storytelling is what's good for the genre.
And that's why, in the end of the day, that's why, you know, slasher films ended up dying, because it was sequel after sequel after sequel.
Yep. Yes. Instead of, let's come up with new versions of this. Let's find new... Look, you know, and I give guys like, you know, like when they made Phone Booth, or Black Phone. Sorry, Black Phone 2. Even though it's a sequel, I went, oh, so you're trying to bring us a new Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
That's what they were doing. I like that, whether it works or it doesn't work. I like that someone like Scott Derrickson, who, by the way, I think has made some of the best horror movies in the last decade. I think Sinister is truly like in the pantheon of the scariest movies. That movie's fucking terrifying. You show me a scene that matches that lawnmower scene. Holy shit. I mean, that movie is just nasty and scary and great. And also, oh, your kids might kill you. What? I don't like that. That's not good.
Killer Kids is always a creepy thing.
Right. But by the way, killer kids that you don't know it's going to be the kid until late in the movie, and then you're like, wait a minute. And the little pretty daughter who you never thought would ever do anything terrible is like the monster of the movie. Oh, okay. So I love when guys like Scott Derrickson swing for the fences that way. Whether it connects or doesn't, I don't care. It's that we got to take the swings. We got to make things that are cool and different.
No, definitely. So you've answered loads of my questions I was going to ask there. I've got to say about Jason Goes to Hell.
Please. Yeah.
I loved all the Easter eggs in there.
Thank you.
The Necronomicon and how you basically made Jason a Deadite. Yeah. I loved that. When I seen that and I seen it, I just went, that's just fantastic. And it's brilliant. Because I'm a massive Evil Dead fan, so seeing the homage to the Thing in there as well, with the crate, it was just, to me, it was just, this is a brilliant, just love letter to horror that had been before, and it's paying a lovely homage to these films that I've thoroughly enjoyed. This filmmaker's obviously a fan. Yep. Now, how did the Necronomicon, what's the story behind that?
So I've always had an issue with the Friday franchise in that there's things that simply just don't make any sense. Most importantly, the fact that, you know, a 11-year-old boy, and I know he's 11 because it was Ari Lehman, who I went to school with, an 11-year-old boy jumps out of the lake at the end of part 1, and by 2 weeks later, when part 2 happens, That 11-year-old boy has gained 160 pounds of body weight and muscle mass, no less. He has fitted perfect clothes for his size. He has learned to drive a car, because I don't think he ambled through Crystal Lake holding his mom's head. And he's learned to read, because the only way you could find where somebody lived was you'd look up the white pages and go, oh, there she is. Or he learned to use a telephone and called, the operator. So that's a lot of stuff to happen to Jason Voorhees in 2 weeks. Now, if you take my premise, which is Pamela would have done anything to have her Jason back, anything to have her boy back, and you think she wouldn't turn to the dark arts? You think she wouldn't turn to evil magic?
Yeah,
and
very true.
She gets her hands on a Necronomicon. By the way, anyone who goes, there's only one Necronomicon, you're an idiot. And please read some more H.P. Lovecraft. That's not true. There's lots of Necronomicons. All you got to do is have human skin to bind it with. But you get your hands on a Necronomicon, and you read from it, and you raise the dead. Well, imagine Pamela does that, and her son, little Jason, is at the bottom of Crystal Lake, and he wakes up. And he's cold and terrified and under all of this muck and mire and all. Now remember, Jason was, a handy-capable kid. He was on the spectrum in a big way. So you've got this little boy terrified at the bottom of the lake. Whether he's evil or not doesn't matter. And now one of the first things he sees lakeside is his mother, and she gets her head cut off. Well, that would make him swim to the surface real quick. That would make him jump at Alice in that boat. I buy that all day long, right? So he pulls her off the boat. Now, she gets away because he's an 11-year-old boy. He can't really do much. He's not really capable of taking her down as he needs to. But he's the evil dead now. And now he is full of rage because his mother is dead. Well, I buy a Deadite or a Revenant or whatever you want to call it. I buy that gaining 160 pounds in 2 weeks. I buy that becoming as magical as it can and reading and knowing how to do things. I get it. Now I go, okay, all bets are off. Now you've got Hell's Assassin on Earth. Great. Let's go for that. And now when he gets his head turned into chopped meat by Corey Feldman by part 4, right? When he is resurrected a la Frankenstein's monster in part 6 and he's zombie Jason. When he goes up against Carrie in part 7, I buy all of it. I buy it. Now I'm like, okay, now your timeline works. Now there's no timeline issues anymore. That's over. And so I always look at Jason Goes to Hell as we're the Rogue One of the Friday the 13th franchise. We figured out how to explain that 3-meter hole in the Death Star.
Yeah.
That's what we are. Great. Happy to be that. Because Rogue One's one of my favorite Star Wars movies.
It's a great film. Great Star Wars movie.
Great movie. So good.
And one of the ones I do return to myself as well.
Me too.
It's excellent. And so how did you actually get hold of an actual Necronomicon?
So I wanted the actual Necronomicon. I knew we could build one, but I was like, I don't want that. I want this to really be tied to Evil Dead, right? So Bob Kurtzman and Howard Berger and Greg Nicotero were doing Army of Darkness. And they were working on the movie, and I desperately wanted to meet Sam, but I also wanted to get my hands on a Necronomicon. So I told Bob, I said, hey, listen, can you guys, can I go up and, hang with you guys while you're working on that movie for a little bit? And he was like, yeah, come up for a few days. That'd be great. I said, awesome. And I said, by the way, would it be okay if maybe you and I talk to Sam and ask him if we can have a Necronomicon for Jason Goes to Hell? And he was like, why do you want it? And I told Bob, and Bob was like, that's fucking great idea. Okay, we go up. I'm on the set of Army of Darkness, which they shot right outside Los Angeles, up north in California, with the full castle, the whole thing. I mean, it was crazy, dude. It was crazy. Yeah. I watched them drop the car. I mean, it was fucking great. And I got to meet Sam. And Bob introduced me as, this is the guy directing the next Friday the 13th film. Now, here's the thing. I think Sam saw, again, I was just turned 23 at this point. Here's this 23-year-old kid standing on his set, a set for the movie that's based on the movie that he made when he was a kid. And I think he saw me and went, oh, this is, as Sam would say, oh, that's great, buddy. And I said, and I told him what I wanted to do, and I wanted an Necronomicon for the movie. He's like, oh, that's a great idea, buddy. Sure. I was handed a Necronomicon in a Ziploc bag.
Brilliant.
And that's what I
fantastic.
And that's what we shot with. And I had my prop guys make a knife that looked like the dagger from Evil Dead, and then of course we would transform it later. But yeah, that's what I did. And look, because we didn't own the rights to Evil Dead, because I couldn't get those rights. I couldn't say it out loud to the movie.
No.
By the way, I don't even think I ever told Sean Cunningham that idea. That was really between me and Dean and Noel. Like, all of us knew. Sean didn't know, because Sean didn't care. But I knew. And I was like, yeah, I'm doing something here. And the smarter fans are going to get what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. Yeah.
And I got it, and it was
I love it.
Yeah, just fantastic.
Thank you, brother.
And as I say, we'd been a big Evil Dead fan. It was just such a great thing to see. So what about The Thing? Because obviously you've mentioned you're a massive Thing fan.
It's beyond one of my favorite movies. I think it is. I think it's John Carpenter's best work, which is saying something, because I think John Carpenter is remarkable. Okay, so I don't. So it's something that your audience I'm sure doesn't know yet, or those who haven't watched the doc don't know it. So I have never in my life drank alcohol or done any drugs of any kind. And not because I had some traumatic experience with them. That's not I have no soapbox to stand on. It's just me.
No.
That's just who I am. A big part of it, however, I know, is because I'm a control freak. And I don't like the idea that I would be out of control, that any part of me would be out of control. I can't. Nope, not interested. The idea of someone entering your mind, entering your body, and taking the helm, I find that terrifying. That's a terrifying concept. And so that's where The Thing, for me, is at its scariest, and why I wanted to emulate that movie so badly. So as far as the props are concerned, I just created stuff that I could go, but it's also me, and you got it right. It's me not tipping my hat to all of the things that made me a filmmaker.
Well, it's like what Sam Raimi did with the Hills Vice poster.
Yep. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's exactly the same thing. Exactly.
And why you done the Jason and the Argonaut style stop motion in Army of Darkness.
Yeah.
That tip of the hat to Harryhausen.
Yeah.
The films he grew up and loved watching.
Absolutely. It's saying I did not come from just the air. I'm built by the things I've experienced. And for me, I'm never afraid to say how much I love another filmmaker's work in my work. By the way, my favorite filmmaker, this is just my personal opinion. I think Steven Spielberg's the single greatest filmmaker of all time. You can shove Wells at me, you can shove Fellini at me, you can shove Kubrick at me. Great. Steven Spielberg's the best of all time. There's just no way around it. And he is a singular voice. While he has influences without a doubt, he has created an entire cinematic language that everybody else follows.
Yes.
And by the way, I also include John Williams as part of that genius. That said, for me, I have a personal affinity for Bob Fosse. All That Jazz has always been my favorite film. But the director that I have the most respect for, the person that I really emulate, is Alan Parker. I adore Alan Parker. In every single movie I've made, there is someone named Parker in every film. And in Jason Goes to Hell, it's my brother. He plays Officer Randy Parker. And that is simply there to always let my audience know there is someone who was a genius, who came before me, and I watched that man's films, and it's why I wanted to be a filmmaker. And I don't think you can shout that stuff too loudly. I think you have to shout
No.
it. Look,
Yeah.
in Secret Santa, I literally have a line of dialogue from the thing right in the middle of the movie, and I put it there.
I've got it written
purposely.
down here to ask you about it when we get to Secret Santa.
Yeah. I
you know,
adore the thing so much, man. Just so much. I just love it.
Film.
By the way, and if you'll note, in Jason Goes to Hell, when we first meet Creighton Duke in a serious way, when he has his interview on American Case File, and he's asked about Jason Voorhees, and he says for that, I'll get you the mask, the machete, the whole damn thing. That's right out of Jaws. That's Jaws, So I again, and by the way, I mean Creighton Duke is Quint.
Yes.
Because Dean, Laurie, and
I
I
can
were both
completely
obsessed.
see it.
Dean and I are both obsessed with Jaws. So here's two 22-year-old kids going like, ooh, let's put in a Jaws reference. I mean, it was like, and it was never like, let's steal from Jaws. No. It was, we love Quint so much. By the way, I always write Quint. Like in every movie I write, there's always a Quint. Because who the hell doesn't want that? Like you want a Quint. It's the greatest character. This curmudgeonly, go fuck yourself guy who knows better than everybody, Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, the influences are important. And I think, and I try to treat them with tremendous respect.
Talking of influences, the diner sequence inspired by Hard Boiled and John Woo.
It sure is. It sure is. So much so, I asked Sean. Sean had never seen any John Woo movies. He didn't know who John Woo was at the time. He just didn't know. And at one point, I asked Sean because I was so pretentious. Oh my God, so pretentious. I asked Sean if I could have a white dove that I could throw through the shot when Robert comes in the room. I wanted a dove to fly in. And Sean looked at me. He goes, "Are you out of your mind? I'm not getting you livestock." He did not understand why I wanted a dove. He just didn't get it. I was like, all right, okay. So I couldn't have a dove. But yes, that is my John Woo inspired sequence, and I love that scene. It's one of my favorite things in the movie. I will say, the night before I went to do my director's test for Jason Goes to Hell, I was invited by Bob Kurtzman to join him for the very first screening of Hard Boiled in the United States, because Bob and the guys were up to do Hard Target. The New Line was trying to get John in to do Hard Target, and so they John really loved the K&B guys and wanted to use them. So he's like, "You want to come see?" He says, "I know tomorrow's the test, but you want to go see John Woo's movie with me?" I was like, "Fuck yeah, I'm going to go see John Woo's movie with you." And so I go to the very first screening of Hard Boiled. It was at Orion Studios. And again, no one in America had seen it. It hadn't been released in any way. And I didn't just get to see the movie. I sat next to John Woo. I watched Hard Boiled next to John Woo.
Yeah.
And at the end of the movie, I walked up to him. I said, I'm such a massive fan. And I talked about Bullet in the Head. I talked about the Better Tomorrow movies. And he was like looking at me like, "Wow, you know all of these." I was like, "Yeah." And I said, "You're just really an inspiration. You're a remarkable artist." And he said, "I'm learning to be better." And I just went, "Oh man, like if I didn't love him enough at that point, like I just adored him." And I just thought, and by the way, what a way to be, like to be that humble when you are that brilliant.
Yeah.
That's a good lesson for any, especially young person, to learn. Like, there was no ego or braggadociousness about this guy. He was really just very kind and humble. It was beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely fantastic. You cast the beautiful Erin Gray, Buck Rogers, who, I love Buck Rogers growing up. And she's excellent in it as well.
Yeah, she really is. She really is.
And she still looked, stunning.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. The thing about Erin, so first thing I will tell you that Gil Gerard, Buck Rogers,
Yeah.
His son, Gib, is one of my closest friends.
Right.
And he's an amazing actor, by the way, just an incredible, incredible actor. But Erin came in. I really wanted to see her for the movie. Now, by the way, Tippi Hedren came in just before Erin Gray. So I met Tippi Hedren, the star of The Birds, like Alfred Hitchcock's muse for a couple of movies. She wanted to do the movie. Like, it was crazy, the people I was seeing. But I really wanted to see Erin, and a big part of that was that if you watch Buck Rogers, the series, the pilot of that show, the acting is far from good. And Erin's acting is far from good in the pilot. It's just not good. Remember, Erin Gray was a model before that show. She never acted. That wasn't what she was doing. And they cast her because she was hot, because she was a gorgeous woman. Okay? What's amazing about that show is when you watch that show, there are several people in that show who never get better at their job. They're just always bad. Okay? Not Erin. Erin Gray gets better from episode to episode to episode. So much so that Gil Gerard wasn't crazy about that and started to kind of push the producers to make her part smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
Because he was threatened. Because she was turning into a really good actor. Okay? What I didn't like about Erin's career was that she was always being treated like a model. Like, here's this gorgeous woman. Let's just focus on her beauty. When she came in to meet me, she only came in because her son loved horror movies and wanted to be in a makeup effects department on a horror movie. So she was really coming in for her kid, right? Which I thought was adorable. I was like, that's very cool of you to even do that. Like, well done. So we sat there and she's like, look, Adam, the Friday 13th movie, I said, I get it, Erin. I said, but let me just ask you something. I said, what would you say, if I were to cast you, I can tell you this. I would barely ever put makeup on you. And she went, what? And I said, yeah, I would want as little makeup as possible, stripped down. I said, because Erin, I'm not interested in the fact that you're beautiful. That's there. I'm hiring you because of the actor that you are.
Yeah.
That's what I want. That's what I want in my movie. Dude, she signed that day. She signed on that day. Because she knew she was going to be treated with the respect of an actor, not the way she'd been treated before. And by the way, not one moment on my set was it ever about Erin's prettiness. It's not what it was about.
Yeah.
It was about the character. It was about doing things that she'd never done before. And we had a great time. Like, Erin and I had a great time on that show. She is also the first woman to ever tell me what a MILF was. So, for a 23-year-old kid to be told what a MILF is by one of the most extraordinary MILFs ever.
Yes.
That's a pretty big deal. I was like, hello,
that's brilliant.
What's happening? Oh my God. So yeah, no, I adore her. I adore Erin. She's brilliant and she's lovely and I'm really, really honored that she jumped on with me to do this movie. Yeah.
Just absolutely fantastic. Now, whose idea was it for the Freddy glove?
That's me, 100%. By the way, it's so me that I had to go to court and testify on the behalf of the New Line executives because there was a guy who came in claiming that he came up with the idea. There's nobody we ever met. He was suing a New Line executive in small claims court so that then he could go after the profits of Freddy versus Jason. And I had to go to court and literally I had to tell a judge. So I'm in my apartment with my two roommates, Dean Laurie and Noel Cunningham. And they were stoned to the bejesus. I was not, because I don't do that. And we were all giggling about all the shit I was putting in the movie, all these these little Easter eggs. And I suddenly went, wait a minute. Doesn't New Line own Freddy outright? And they were like, yeah, I think so. I said, oh God. And they just killed Freddy and Freddy's dead. I know who's going to drag Jason down to hell. And I called my two executives, Mike DeLuca and Mark Ordesky, called them in the middle of the night, woke their asses up. And I was like, guys, listen, can I have Freddy's glove and his laugh? And they were like, what do you want it for? And I told them the ending. These guys live 5 miles apart from each other in Los Angeles. You could hear them high five over the city as I said it. Okay. Next day I had the glove. That was it. It was that fast. I think they went right to Bob Shea, pitched him the idea. Bob went, that's fucking great. And next day I had the glove. So that's how that happened. But yes, it was 100% my idea. By the way, I sure would like some of that residual money from Freddy versus Jason. That'd be good. I'd dig some of that. But yes, it is my idea.
Is there any other Easter eggs you wanted to put in but you never got to?
Look, the thing that I wanted to put in that movie most that I didn't get to put in, and it was the fault of the deal that Sean had made with Paramount. I wanted the hero to be Tommy Jarvis.
Right.
Stephen Freeman was supposed to be Tommy Jarvis, and
I can see that.
Well, the reasoning behind it was I was making the final Friday. And by the way, they meant that. Like, that wasn't bullshit for New Line. That was going to be the last Friday the 13th movie, and the next movie was going to be Freddy vs. Jason. And then when Wes said, I want to do New Nightmare, that fucked up everything, and suddenly they had to do that, and then the rights went... It just became a clusterfuck. But it was going to be the last Friday the 13th movie. So my feeling was, okay, the first of the franchise is about a mother who loses her son. I wanted the last movie of the franchise to be about a father who finds his daughter. And that way there's this perfect arc for the series. And I went, well, okay, if I'm going to have a hero that the audience can instantly fall in love with and be on his side, not be on Jason's side, but be on the hero's side, well, shit, it's got to be Tommy. It's got to be Tommy Jarvis. He's the one character in this franchise that you go, no, that's the guy. By the way, I would have loved to have brought back Amy Steele as well, but it wasn't going to happen. But I originally I wanted to go to Tom Matthews. Like, I really wanted to do Tommy Jarvis.
Yes.
And I was told, you cannot use Tommy Jarvis in any way, shape, or form. Nope, we don't own it.
Oh.
Don't own it. All we owned was the things from the first movie and the hockey mask. That's it. That's all we had. We couldn't reference any of the other movies. We couldn't even talk about them. So that was really frustrating. And that's the Easter egg that I couldn't put in the movie that I really wanted in the movie.
Well, the guy you got for the leading man had also been in the Friday the 13th franchise.
Absolutely.
With the TV show, and he was excellent in that.
He's so good. John LeMay's fucking great.
Yeah.
The guy is so talented. And he's a sweetheart too. Like, we're friends to this day, John and I. He's just an amazing person. I was very lucky in that, and I will tell you what's really interesting, and it's good that he had done the TV series for Paramount, not for New Line, because originally when we came up with Creighton Duke, the person that I wanted to hire was Yaphet Kotto. And New Line wouldn't let me because he had just been in Freddy's Dead. And they were like, no crossing the streams. They wouldn't let the streams get crossed. So they wouldn't allow me to have Yaphet. And by the way, good, because Stephen Williams is like the best piece of casting.
Creighton Duke was a fantastic addition to the franchise, who I would have loved to have seen in prequels, sequels.
Well, Stephen Williams and I, to this day, are working on a Creighton Duke movie. So hopefully someday you'll get to see a lot more Creighton Duke.
Excellent. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, if you were to make a sequel to Jason Goes to Hell, what in your mind would... But, well, we've talked about that already.
It would be... Well, look, if I was to make a Jason movie, it would be my Predator version of Jason.
Yeah.
But if I was to make a sequel to Jason Goes to Hell, that would be Freddy versus Jason. And it wouldn't be the movie that they made. It was... No. I had a different idea for that movie. And I pitched it, and they loved the pitch. Like, I had a 3-picture deal with New Line at that time. But then Wes came in and said, I want to make New Nightmare. And I was like, okay, I guess that's not happening.
Everything's screwed.
Yeah, and that's fine. Look, again, Wes should do whatever the fuck Wes wants to do. Look, I was offered Scary Movie, which was the original title, but I was offered Scream right after I did Jason Goes to Hell. And I wanted to do it. I love that script. Oh my God, it was so good. And then Wes said he wanted to do it. And it was like, I ain't getting that job. There you go. But by the way, nor should I. Nor should I. He's Wes fucking Craven. Come on. And he made a masterpiece because he's a genius. And there you go.
First Scream film was an excellent return to form for slasher films.
So good. So good. By the way, they also fucked up slasher movies for the rest of us. Like, for the other filmmakers, we were screwed after that movie because they gave away all the rules. They made it so... They pointed out all the shit that was in other horror movies that we were like, now we're screwed. We can't use any of that anymore. It's sort of like when Kubrick fucked up blood for every filmmaker in The Shining. Like, the minute that elevator opened, every other filmmaker went, well, now this ain't going to be scary again. He killed blood for us. Because he did. He did. God bless him.
Well, mind you, look what Sam did with the Evil Dead films with the amount of blood.
Absolutely.
Absolutely phenomenal.
Yes.
So how did the documentary Heart of Darkness come about?
So I'd been asked for decades to make a documentary about the movie. Everybody was always talking to me about it, and I did not want to do it. I really didn't. Because look, you know, when Jason Goes to Hell first came out, it was really great experience for me. Like, we were number 2 at the box office, which was amazing. It made more money than the last couple Friday 13s had made. We did really good business. And then the VHS and then the DVD. The VHS was the biggest selling video that New Line had ever put out. So it was an incredible success. And I was doing other films. I was writing other things for other studios. I had, the Monday after Jason Goes to Hell came out, I met with Francis Ford Coppola at Zoetrope because he had seen Jason Goes to Hell and loved it. And a week later, I was in New York meeting with Robert De Niro because he had seen Jason Goes to Hell and loved it. So it was great. And then the internet happened. And this wave of hatred happened. And it got really bad. Like, really bad. Like, I was like, what the fuck is this? And there was this douche nozzle who made a video on YouTube, early days of YouTube, called How New Line Destroyed the Friday 13th franchise. And that video went viral, and suddenly there were so many people wishing me death for making that movie. And so when people would ask me, like, hey, make a documentary about it, I was like, why? I don't want to do that. No, thank you. I'm good. I have my own career now. I'm not doing that. I have no interest. And then in 2019, these 2 young guys who were huge fans on Facebook made a Facebook page for me for my birthday. And it was called Jason Goes to Hell, the Final Fan Page. And they invited a bunch of people. And so I thought, like, oh, that's the sweetest thing ever. How cool. It'll be like 20 people just, talking about Jason Goes to Hell. That'll be nice. By the end of the week, there was 1,000 people on it. 3 weeks in, there were 5,000 people on it. I was like, wait, what? And suddenly this wave of love came at me that I hadn't experienced in a long time because of that movie. And then all of them were demanding a documentary for me. And I turned to the 2 guys, those 2 dudes who had done this, and I went, you little bastards. You did this on purpose. You knew that this was going to happen. They're like, we don't know nothing. Of course, those guys are both associate producers on the documentary. And they're amazing. They're great guys. TJ Bowser and Corey Kaufman. They snookered me, but God bless them. So here's the thing. I said, okay, if the fans want this doc, I'll make it. And my company will make this movie, but I ain't paying for it. No way. I said, I won't take a salary. I will take no money to make the film, but I'm not having my company come out of pocket for this movie. And so I said, we'll put up an Indiegogo. If it gets financed, great. I'll go make it. Dude, we got financed so quickly. It was so fast. I was like, oh no. And suddenly I'm like, well, I guess I got to go make this thing now. Shit.
That's brilliant.
So we at the beginning in January of 2020, end of January going into February, we shot over 30 interviews in 2 weeks. Like, we were killing it, man. Like, we were just killing it. And then March 2020 happened. And the world
COVID
shut down.
strikes again.
Right. And here's the thing. Most people, especially in America, their COVID was, 5 months to a year, right? That's how much it was. Not in California. LA, it was 2.5 years.
Yeah.
We did not get out of our house for 2.5 years. And now I'm making this movie that I'm like, I thought this documentary would be done in a year. 1 year, done. We're done. Send it out. There you go. Dude, this movie took 6 years to produce. That's crazy. That's crazy. I had a different director on the film when we started. He was no longer with us. I brought in Michael Felsher. God bless, thank God, because he is just amazing. He's a brilliant filmmaker. I also got my best friend of my entire lifetime, a guy named Eric Beatner, him and I have been best friends since we were 14. Eric is a 10-time Emmy-nominated editor for The Amazing Race. And Eric Beatner cut this documentary. And we've wanted to work together our whole lives. And so now Eric and I make everything together. So this movie brought together all of these people that I didn't know and now love. It brought me together with old friends that now I reconnected with in this brilliant way. And it reconnected me to the entire cast and crew of Jason Goes to Hell. And I told all of them, I said, look, this is not a puff piece. If you think I was a dick, say that I was a dick. I'm never going to be upset about it. Like, I don't have a thin skin about it. Talk about it. And in fact, I did not go to Kane Hodder's interview because I wanted Kane to say whatever Kane wanted to say. Okay? Kane, on camera, sent me a message because I didn't come to his house. He was like, hey, listen, you little rat bastard. Where the fuck are you? You don't come to my interview? What am I, chopped liver? I was like, oh my God, Kane's pissed at me now. And I will say, because of this movie, I've gotten so much closer with Kane Hodder. Kane and I travel together all the time. We're always at conventions together. Man, he's the uncle I never knew that I wanted, and I really did. He's an amazing person. I adore Kane. I really do. He's one of my favorite people.
I mean, he played Jason the most as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And by the way, the fact that he is not Jason, Freddy versus Jason is my biggest problem with Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah, I wasn't too happy with that, I must admit.
Yeah.
It would have not been nice. He should have got the job, without a doubt.
He absolutely should.
So, I think we've covered everything with Jason Goes to Hell.
Sure.
Let's move on to your next film.
Mm-hmm.
Critically acclaimed Let It Snow, which was a very different movie. And sadly, I've watched all the other films we're talking about, but Let It Snow, as I said, was the only one I wasn't able to view.
It's a tougher find at this point. It was a tiny independent film. And I did it because all I was getting offered after Jason Goes to Hell, after Scream, which would have been amazing, everything else was a sequel. Everything was a horror sequel. And so, Pumpkinhead 2, Amityville 97, Leprechaun Back to the Hood. I just went, no, I'm not going to be a filmmaker that every movie I make has a number at the end of the title. By the way, Jason Goes to Hell does not have a number.
No,
because we couldn't use the title Friday the 13th because New Line didn't own it. Part of the rights problems. So, I really didn't want to get stuck in a box. And look, at that point, I'd met my wife, who, by the way, did ADR on Jason Goes to Hell, and is almost every female scream in the movie. And whenever anybody's like panting or running or anything, that's all my wife. And she's a brilliant actress, and she's a fantastic playwright. And so she and I started writing together, and so we started selling a bunch of scripts to the studios, and we were making really good money doing that. And there was one movie I was going to direct for Paramount, and that was taking too long. And then my brother Kip, who was one of the leads of Jason Goes to Hell, he was on Broadway playing Marius in Les Mis. And he brought me a screenplay for a movie he wanted to make. And he and I developed that script over several months. And then he said, you want to direct this thing? And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I do.
Why not?
And we went and made, and I'd already made a couple studio films, and I went and made a $200,000 indie in New York City on 35 millimeter film with over 50 actors in it and over 50 locations. It was insane. It was an insane thing to try to do. and we ended up becoming this festival darling. And it was this sweet romantic comedy starring, you know, Stephen Colbert and Bernadette Peters, and like it was an amazing experience. And it changed my life in that people didn't just pigeonhole me into one kind of filmmaking, which, by the way, is why I love Alan Parker so much. So you look at Alan Parker, you go, he did Bugsy Malone, and the next movie he made was Midnight fucking Express.
Mm.
And then he goes from Midnight Express and makes Fame? Like, who is this guy? Right?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
You know, so for me, there was so much more joy in, can I just tell stories I want to tell? And it doesn't matter what genre they're in.
Yeah.
I want to just tell these stories. So, you know, with Let It Snow, it put me, you know, look, the movie that I won Best Picture with at NYU, which got me Jason Goes to Hell ultimately, was a romantic comedy. It was a teen comedy. It was like a John Hughes kind of movie. And now I was returning to, you know, a romantic comedy. And I love comedy. It's I mean, even if you watch Jason Goes to Hell, you will see a tremendous amount of comedy in that movie. So yeah, I wanted to zig when everybody thought I would zag.
Yeah, and I'm gonna keep looking for it because with watching all your films, it's one I have to find out. Then moving nearly 10 years later, Conspiracy,
right,
from 2008. Wounded United States Marine discovers a corporate conspiracy designed to run illegal aliens out of an Arizona border town by any means necessary, starring Val Kilmer and Jennifer Esposito.
Yeah. And Gary Cole, by the way.
Yes, Gary Cole, yes.
So good.
Great actors.
Yes. So in the intervening years between those two movies, I was writing a lot of television and then a lot of scripts for the studios. And that's something that you never see on IMDb because they only do the stuff that got made. I sold 5 television series in 2 years. I worked for Ron Howard for 3 years. I mean, I worked for the producers of Friends and was on the set of Friends for years. So, you know, the sadness of being in our industry, especially as a writer, you do all of this work. I literally have scripts at every single studio, but the life of a screenwriter is you're lucky if you keep selling stuff. Very little ever gets made.
No.
And so you can sell 100 scripts, and if 3 of them get made, you're really lucky. So the fact that I was able to have a really nice living doing that in between my directing gigs. Conspiracy was the movie that almost made me quit the industry.
I've got to ask, is that because of Mr. Kilmer?
100%.
Because I'm going to say, I interviewed Richard Stanley. You know the trouble he had with him on the island of Dr. Moreau.
Richard and I have spoken about it.
Yeah, and he went into great detail, and I've got down what was it like working with Val Kilmer, and I could tell it was. I just knew it was that would be the reason why you didn't enjoy the film.
Yeah, we're like a little club. Those of us that directed Val, and all of us have the same story. There's not one person who's like, "Oh, he was a delight."
I mean, I've got to say, I thoroughly enjoyed the film.
Thoroughly
enjoyed watching it. Watched it this afternoon, first time watch, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I will send you my director's copy. It is a very different movie.
Right.
It's very different. I made a movie that was about post-traumatic stress disorder. I made a movie that was far more about character and about what we do to these guys who fight for us. I made a gritty, raw movie, and the producers wanted a Steven Seagal movie. And fine. Okay, cool. Cool. I get it. That's what you want to do? Great. The movie that I made is a far better movie than what they ended up putting out. But I got to tell you, people love that movie. I've got a huge fan base from that film. I thoroughly, it's awesome.
Thoroughly enjoyed watching it this afternoon.
Thank you. Thanks, Thank you.
Really great, and I could see with the post-traumatic stress things that it is littered in there.
Yeah.
And an hour and a half long, just under.
Oh yeah.
That nice tight I think that's a sweet spot for a movie.
By the way, every movie I've made is about that length.
Yes, it is. I've got that brought up on the last film we talked about. But no, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought the action was good.
Thank you.
Making him have the one leg was a nice difference as well. And I thought Val was very good, but there was bits where I thought, I'm watching it and I'm going, he was an absolute prick on this film. I just know it.
Yep. Well, he was high most of the movie.
Right.
And barely ever there. And by the way, Conspiracy is an action movie. I shot that film in 24 days. That's not a schedule for an action movie. Action movies don't get made that fast. They just don't. So I was given no time, no money, and a star who was a fucking nightmare. Now, I will say this. Most of my cast, like 80% of my cast, were actors in my troupe from LA.
Yeah.
That I brought with me. Jennifer Esposito was incredible. One of the finest.
She's a great actress.
One of the finest actors I've ever worked with. Gary Cole is one of my favorite human beings on planet Earth. Like he's a genius when it comes to his work, but he is a kind, lovely, brilliant guy. And by the way, anytime a crew member or a cast member would ask him to do Bill Lundeberg from Office Space, he would do it immediately. Like, he wouldn't go, oh, no, I'm not going to. He would immediately go into the voice. He would grab a coffee mug wherever he was and, immediately. And so that's the kind of actor you want to work with all the time. I adore Gary.
He was always the midnight caller for me. Which,
so good. And nobody knows that show, and it's so good.
It is. It was. So I used to watch it back in the 80s. My mum was a fan. So we didn't have cable or anything like that.
Right.
It was shown on BBC.
Yeah. It's a CBS show.
Yeah, it was shown on BBC over here. And my mum used to watch it, so hence, we didn't have loads of TVs in the house like folk have today.
Right.
So I'd watch Gary Cole's Midnight Callers, and it will always be the Midnight Caller to me.
That show is extraordinary, and American Gothic is amazing.
Oh, American Gothic was such a good
so good. And Gary's playing the devil. By the way, I had to fight for Gary to be in Conspiracy. They didn't want him. Do you know who Val wanted? Val wanted me to hire Mickey Rourke.
Oh,
Can
God.
you imagine?
That would have been
Val Kilmer and Mickey Rourke? Oh, my God. Kill me now.
That would have been an absolute nightmare.
That movie almost broke me. It really did. Like, that's the only really horrible experience I've had as a director.
I mean, I thought they had touches of Bad Day at Black Rock and First Blood. With First Blood, especially the police station scenes.
Yep.
And and obviously I noticed your little cameo in there, your Alfred Hitchcock moment.
By the way, Val asked me to do that.
All right, okay.
Because I'm in Let It Snow. It's a small part in Let It Snow as well, but I'm in it, and he loved my work. And so when we were working on the script together, he was like, "Adam, you got to be in the movie. Like, we got to do scenes together." I was like, "Okay, all right, okay." And so I joined the cast, and then when we would shoot our scenes, we would always shoot Val first. Number one always goes first, so we'd shoot Val, and then we turn the camera for me, and Val would leave. So I would act for Val. Val wasn't acting for me.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yes. That's the kind of person he was. That's who he was. That's Val. Yeah.
The only one I never spotted you in was Secret Santa.
I'm not in Secret Santa. It's literally my only movie that I'm not in. The reason behind that, so Secret Santa was the first movie out of Skeleton Crew, out of our company, the same company that made the doc. Skeleton Crew has been the name that I've had for a production company since I was 15 years old, and I legally own that name now. One of my partners at the time had called me from the independent from AFM, from the American Film Market, and this is in 2015, and he's like, "Adam, there's no horror. Like, everybody needs a horror movie right now." I was like, okay. He said, what do you have in your screenplays that we can just, like, shoot immediately, like, get something really quick? that will cost us nothing. And I'm like, dude, I don't know if I got anything, but I'll go take a look. So Deborah and I looked through our archives, and really nothing fit the bill. And I said, I said, I have an idea. I said, give me 24 hours and I'll call you back. He called me the day before Halloween in 2015. So October 30th. And I called one of my actors, a woman named Pat Destro, who has a beautiful house up in Big Bear, California, on Big Bear Lake. And I said, Pat, is anybody renting your house for the first week of January? You always said I could use your house for a movie. She's like, absolutely. I said, well, listen, I got a part for you in the movie. I would need your house for the first 2 weeks of January. And she's like, you got it. Done. It's yours. I said, great. I said, I would also need you to not take down your Christmas decorations from Christmas. She's like, okay, sure. I said, can you go, there are 2 rental houses on either side of her house. I said, can you go see if I can get the 2 houses on either side of your house to rent? And can you talk to everybody in your neighborhood and make sure nobody will take their Christmas decorations down until after Martin Luther King Day? She's like, done. She calls me back 30 minutes later. She goes, I got you both houses on either side of us for way less money because I'm doing it. I was like, great. And the entire neighborhood said they'd be thrilled to keep their Christmas decorations up. I said, great. So now I know I've got my location. I've got houses to house and feed my crew and my cast.
Yeah.
And I am set decorated for the whole movie. I don't have to do anything. I'm not spending a dollar. By the way, this is before I had a screenplay. So then I sat down. I calculated the number of people I would need to tell the story. I went to my actors and to the people that I knew would be perfect for these roles. Even though there's no script yet. I don't even have the movie written yet. I go to this group. I ask each one of them, you want to do it? Want to do it? Want to do it? Each one of them says yes. One person says, I don't know if I can give you the full 2 weeks because I got a job thing and I would have to leave for part of it. I said, no problem. I'll kill you first. By the way, he's the first guy to die in the movie. Deborah and I sat down on Halloween Day of 2015. 20 days later, the script was done. We did a reading of the movie. I went back. We tweaked for 2 days. We had another reading of the movie. We were greenlit, ready to go. I pre-produced the movie in December of 2015. We shot the movie the first 2 weeks of January 2016. If you're keeping count, from the moment I was asked to come up with an idea to make a movie till having it in the can was 10 weeks. The entire
Bloody hell.
movie. The whole movie. Yeah. By the way, I knew that because I was going to have to be doing everything in this movie, like I was going to have such a time. I literally had a 5-person crew for the entire movie. 5 people. The cast outnumbered us by 3. Okay? I knew because of that, there was no way that I'd be able to hop in front of the camera and be able to do the job I needed to do. Even though I love acting and I love doing that stuff. But for me, I was like, there's just no way. I need to be behind the camera. I got to be like with it the whole time. And we shot with 3 red cameras for 11 nights in one day. We shot Secret Santa, and it is the best 10 weeks I've ever had in my life.
It's a great, fun holiday slasher film with a difference. I don't want to go too much into it because it's, spoiler, if I did it, there's too many spoilers. But it's just great fun. It's got some dark humor. The Holocaust joke made me laugh, which I've heard before. That joke hurt before, and I was just like, oh my god, I love this. This is great. Yeah. Great to see that Robert Kurtzman was involved, effects wise and things. The Ty Webb reference, Caddyshack.
Thank you very much.
Which is a favourite of mine. And then, obviously, as we mentioned earlier on, the Thing reference with the last tied to the chair. Yes. And it just had me just chuckling. And again, I first time watched today was today, just 2 hours before we chatted when it finished. And I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'm quite cynical with horror nowadays. But
yes, I get it. Boy, do I get that. Yeah.
And
my
no, it
my
was
wife. My wife is the matriarch of the movie. She's the
yes.
Shari, and I truly, for me, I wrote the movie for her. Like I wanted it to be a showcase of her brilliance.
Do you know something, right? I have had experiences like that, Mother.
There you go.
Yep. Without a doubt.
Yep.
I've had not just mothers, with fathers. I once had a girlfriend, her dad hated me for no reason. And he would make known. I'd walk into the house, he'd say something snotty and walk out to the shed. Or if he came back in and I was still there, he'd say something, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, the reason that I wanted to do Secret Santa was that my parents were married on Christmas Eve.
Right.
And so they would have a party every year. And then they got divorced when I was 6, and they would still have the party because it was Christmas. And so everybody would get together. So everybody was like really nice to each other at first, and then horrible to each other the rest of the night. And I was like, what is happening? So
as soon as the alcohol took,
experience.
Yeah. Alcohol, truth serum. I thoroughly enjoyed some great gore gags. Some great practical gore gags as well.
Thank you.
And it was just a great fun watch, which will now go into my Christmas rotation.
I love it.
Of horror films, and I will be spreading the word big time next year when it comes to my usual December watching as many Christmas themed horror films as I can.
I will tell you, this coming Christmas, there very well might be a new edition of Secret Santa coming out. I can't give details away, but look, it's the movie that I am the most proud of, simply because we made it for. By the way, I made that movie for $30,000. That's all I had. That's all I had to make that whole film.
It does not show.
Nope.
I've seen films with massive budgets that look cheap and amateurish and absolutely atrocious, especially a lot of the modern horror that's knocking about. And
absolutely,
it's not pretentious either, which is what a lot of modern horror is. So far up its own ass, it's unbelievable.
Yep. And this is
that wasn't
not that.
No. It was rude and crude and fun and silly and just some great gore gags in it as well.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. I will also tell you, the movie, the UK was actually really incredibly important to that film, because we premiered the movie at Sitges, right? Which was wonderful, and it's a great festival. Yeah. But I got an email right after Sitges. I get an email from Alan Jones. You know Alan, right?
The great Alan Jones.
The great Alan Jones.
I've met the man. The man a couple of times myself. I'm going to get him on the pod at some point.
Please do. Oh my God, you'll have a great time. Holy shit.
Yeah.
But Alan wrote me at home and said, I saw Secret Santa at Sitges. And these were my thoughts. And he wrote a review of the movie that was so beautiful. Like, just broke my heart. It was so beautiful. And he said, please let me show this at Fright Fest in Glasgow. And I said, and he also said, I have always loved your films. You can check my receipts. He reviewed every movie I've made. And he's raved every movie. Like, it was like, he gave, in Starburst, he gave Jason Goes to Hell, when it came out, he gave it 9 skulls out of 10.
There you go, man. The man knows his stuff.
he was such a fan, and I didn't know Alan because I'm in America. I don't, I didn't.
Yeah.
I called my buddy John Esposito, who wrote Graveyard Shift, Stephen King's Graveyard Shift, and he's one of my closest friends my whole life. And From Dusk Till Dawn, he was the producer and one of the writers on that. And I called John and I said, "Hey, dude, Alan Jones just got." He goes, "The Alan Jones?" I was like, "Yeah, I think so." I wrote back to Alan. I said, "Alan, I can't tell you what this letter means to me. And yes, you can absolutely have Secret Santa for Fright Fest. All I ask in return is that you publish what you wrote to me as your review." And he wrote back, "Darling, already done." When we showed at Glasgow, it was the year with the Beast from the East.
Right. Yes. Oh, a horrible time.
We all flew into London. We were all there. We couldn't get to Glasgow. We got stuck in London with Alan. We're all there with Alan. We can't go to the festival to a sold out audience for this movie. So Alan then, as we're there in London, we all had brunch together. And we're all laughing about the fact that we can't get to the festival that we're all in. And it's literally my whole cast, everybody. We're all there. And he says, "Well, I think I can make things a little better for you guys since Fright Fest is going to create its own label for distribution. We're going to have our own video label." I was like, "Uh-huh." He says, "I want Secret Santa to be the first film on that label." Secret Santa was distributed by Fright Fest Presents in all of the UK. And it was their first movie. And then we came back for London Fright Fest 4 months later. It's like, we never have the same movies twice. I want this I was like, fuck yeah. So we go back for it. And while we're there, Alan is the one who introduces the movie with Deb and I. And we're talking, because nobody else came that time. Everybody had spent their money to come the first time. So Deb and I go, we're in front of the audience. And he says, "So what are you working on?" I said, "Well, we're talking about this Jason Goes to Hell thing. This documentary." He's like, "Darling, you're doing a doc?" I said, "Yeah, we are." He goes, "Well, it has to premiere at Fright Fest. Make that agreement with me right now in front of this audience." And I said, "Okay, you got it. Done." By the way, Hearts of Darkness Making the Final Friday made its world premiere at Fright Fest last year at Glasgow. And it was one of the greatest screenings I've ever attended. It was amazing.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. So now Alan now is he's like a father figure. I adore him. He's brilliant and he is lovely. And he puts his money where his mouth is. Boy, does he. He's amazing. He's amazing. By the way, and also Mark Kermode loved the movie too, which I was very surprised about. Like, we did very well. We did very well.
Surprisingly with Mark Kermode, because normally he doesn't.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Mark Kermode can be a bit up his own ass.
I know.
At times.
I know, and I was shocked when I read the review. I was like, "Wow, you liked it! I couldn't believe it." And by the way, Alan couldn't believe it either. He's like, "We rarely agree." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool."
So, we've covered absolutely everything, and it's been absolutely fantastic. But before we go, I've got to ask you. To rank Dawn of the Dead, The Evil Dead, and The Thing, because they're the three films we've talked about the most, other than your own.
Wow, that's like Sophie's Choice, dude. Okay.
Evil Dead and Dawn of the Dead are my two favorite films ever in the world.
Dude, by the way, Dawn of the Dead, I was such a fan of Dawn of the Dead. And by the way, the first time I saw it on Betamax, before it came out in theaters. Because Tom Savini was doing Friday the 13th. He came to Sean's house with a copy of Dawn of the Dead and was like, "You guys want to see this?" And we were like, "Yeah." I mean, I'm sure I'm scarred for life from that viewing, but it was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. So much so that when they back when Dawn of the Dead came out, videotapes, you could rent them at a store. No one bought a videotape. Like, you didn't buy one for your house because they were too expensive. They were like $90. And this is back in the 80s, $90. I love Dawn of the Dead so much that I saved up my money for weeks and weeks of like my day jobs. And I went into New York City to see my dad, and there was a little electronics store in the middle of Times Square that had a copy of Dawn of the Dead in the window for $89.99. And I bought that copy. I still have that VHS recording.
Excellent. I've got an original British rental release. It was the very first VHS I ever saw. Came home. I've told the story on the podcast, so I'll just give quick. Went to school. I'll have been 8-year-old, 7-year-old, something like that. Went to school, no VHS player. Came home. My dad's just put on Dawn of the Dead into vision. Trailer for Night of the Living Dead on the start. Sat and watched Dawn, glued to the screen. Absolutely loving it. Became my all-time favorite movie until The Evil Dead came out. When I seen that, not long after, and I can't. It's hard to separate them both. I screened films as well.
Absolutely.
And I've screened them both multiple times.
I can tell you, look, the movie I've seen the most of the three is probably The Thing. Because I've made because of Jason Goes to Hell, I'd watched the movie so many times because I was studying it. Look, from a technical standpoint and from an acting standpoint, The Thing is unbeatable. Just from a technical and acting standpoint, they had more money. John Carpenter was a much more seasoned director. All of those things. When it comes to The Evil Dead, it is the movie that showed me that nothing would ever be able to stand in my way to make movies.
Pure punk rock filmmaking.
Right. Here's a bunch of kids making a movie and doing anything they could do to make it. And they made it, and it became it became a franchise success. It's a tiny, nothing little movie that became a worldwide success.
Yeah.
That movie for me is probably the most influential on my career, from just like who I wanted to be and how I could do it, you know? So it's like the blueprint of how to have a career for me. Dawn of the Dead is probably the best comfort food movie I own. Because it's one of those movies that I watch and I feel like, I almost feel hugged by it. I love that movie so much. So, look, ranking them on a number system would be impossible for me because I love them all. I love each one of them equally and for very different. It would be like, hey, which one of your kids is your favorite? Okay, I can't. Come on. But, by the way, there are things about each one of your kids that you love more than the other one.
Yeah.
But for all different reasons. So it's, those movies, oh man, like that's a good question because it's an impossible answer because I adore all three of those. And I also adore the filmmakers who made them.
Yeah.
Like I can watch the oeuvre of each one of those filmmakers and go, yeah, I love these guys. You know, so yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry if it's not as good an answer as I can,
you know what I mean? I find it hard to, go back and forth. We done a top 10 horror, and Dawn of the Dead won it because it's one of the most influential horror films of all time. The Thing was a close second.
Yep.
And it was only because there was three of us who did the podcast at the time.
Sure.
And two voted for Dawn of the Dead. One was The Thing, so Dawn of the Dead won out.
Yeah. Squeaked it out. Yep.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
And as I said earlier on, Dawn of the Dead is without a doubt the greatest American Civil War film you will ever see.
I totally agree with you. Couldn't agree more.
You know what I mean? Everyone was going on about Civil War. And I shook my mate. He was going, Civil War, it's amazing. I said, I watched it. It says, but Dawn of the Dead's your Civil War movie. And he sat there and he went, oh, I never thought of that.
Now, by the way, we are not including The Exorcist, Jaws, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which are, for me, three
superb films as well.
They're three of the greatest movies ever made. And I will say, out of the group of them, funny enough, Texas Chainsaw is the one out of all of these movies that I would say is the single scariest movie. From the sense of that film feels like it's not a movie. You feel like you're watching somebody documented this happening.
And there's no blood, and it's all in your head.
That's
and
right.
It's just, and the soundscape, you know what I mean? They do like them sharp and all that going through it.
Yep.
And it just puts you on edge.
Completely.
And of course, you wrote Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D.
I did.
So, you know what I mean? Which was, great fun film.
I can tell you this, that one of the greatest moments of my life was after Deb and I finished that script. Toby Hooper had read it, and he called us at home. And I was very nervous because I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna hate it, and And he said to Deb and I, he said, I can tell you this, you have made the only true sequel to my original film. And I said, Toby, you wrote and directed part 2. And he says, I will reiterate, you just wrote the only true sequel to my original film.
I love part 2. I absolutely adore part 2.
Dude,
I think it's insane.
Too.
I think it's insane.
So, yeah, I turned to Deborah at that point and said, you can put me in a box. Like, I've done it. I've done everything I was put on this earth to do. Like, I couldn't get a better compliment. So, yeah, he was also a lovely guy.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, on that, I think stick around once we do the sign out, and I'll have a quick chat with you. But no, I think we've covered absolutely everything. It's been an absolute pleasure and an honor chatting to you. And you're the first person I've chatted to from the Friday the 13th franchise, which is one of my favorite horror franchises ever. And I absolutely love Jason Goes to Hell.
Thank you, brother.
Shame we never got it on the cinema over in England.
I know.
But
I know.
As soon as it hit on VHS, I was at that shop, and I own every Friday the 13th on original VHS as well.
Perfect.
And
by the way, Hearts of Darkness is going to be on VHS.
Oh, superb!
We made a VHS deal for the movie. Yep.
Oh well, if there's a nice big hard box which will go nicely with me others, I might have to get that picked up because I do have an insane amount of Friday the 13th merchandise, along with the sideshow big 12-inch figures and things like that.
Oh yeah. I consulted on the one for Jason Goes to Hell for a couple of months. For the sideshow.
Oh, it's a great figure. They are great sideshow figures. They're brilliant.
They do just a fucking amazing job.
Yeah.
They really are brilliant. Yeah. Brilliant.
And when we've not long moved into this house, and once it's all done and dusted, I'm building a VHS room to show and my Friday the 13th figures and displays all getting displayed in there as well. Because we've just been putting bits and bobs out at the moment. Because with me being disabled, the wife's got to do it all. Right. Bless her. No, thank you so much, Adam, for being an absolute gent and telling me some fantastic stories that I've thoroughly enjoyed listening to. And I enjoyed rewatching Jason Goes to Hell, which, to be fair, on the run up to every Friday the 13th, I always watch them all and post on me Facebook page and things like that with reviews and so I'm always up there. So thank you for being
my
here.
Absolute pleasure, brother.
And as I say, stick around and I'll have a quick crack with you. So anyways, it's goodbye from me and obviously a very nice goodbye from Adam. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.